So, hello, here we are back, and I would like to give you a couple of thoughts on this game by Herman Luttman. It's called Invaders from Dimension X, and it's a hex encounter war game where you are a group, and it's completely solitaire. I think that there is a two-player variant in there, but it was designed to be played solitaire, which appeals to me in very many ways. Number one, because I'm a solitaire player, and I really like it when people think about how to implement a game where you have to play against some victory conditions or try to reach some victory conditions, and you usually have to have some form of AI. You have to get some form of intelligent mechanism that throws problems your way. This could be event cards, it could be chit draws, and in this case they have opted for chit draws. The backstory is this is set in the future, this is not a real battle, and the idea is that you are a group of Marines that are trying to, in this case, run the gauntlet and move from this hex side to this hex side and off the map, and try to escape from these invaders from Dimension X. They're called Chaots, and they have become aware of our dimension because somebody drilled into their dimension accidentally, and then they realized, oops, there's another dimension. They came through that hole and they've decided to eradicate mankind. And the game comes with 3 scenarios. When you look closely at these components that I have here, this is the print and play version, which retails at $10. You can go to their website, you can download it from the Wargame Vault. And then, of course, you have to print it yourself, and this is why it doesn't look as amazing as the actual game looks when you buy the version that they sell as a Ziploc version. And if you want to know what that looks like, I recommend you go to Geek Gamers, because she's got the actual version, the Ziploc version. But of course, I had to cobble this together, and while the PDFs are perfect, when I try to put it together, of course, you know, I've got, as we say in German, 2 left hands. It means that you're not very handy, and I am not very handy. So cutting out those was a bit of a chore, and so they don't look as even, they don't look as nice, but they're perfectly serviceable, and they don't detract from the game at all. This is deemed to be low complexity, and I agree, and it's aimed at anyone who is either a wargamer. If you're already a wargamer, you will find this very easy to pick up, and it's a romp. It's really just for fun. It's not taking itself seriously, but it does take the player seriously. It is a fully implemented war game where you have counters that represent your units. I would say that each counter represents 1 person. It teaches several war game mechanics. If you've never played a war game and you would be interested to find out how they play, you can buy this and actually get a very good feel for certain mechanics which are fully implemented. You have line of sight, which is either blocked completely or which leads to a reduction in your combat modifier. You have movement. You have terrains which change your movement factors. You have stunned and paralyzed states of your units, which leads to changes in the way they behave. So if you're stunned, your movement value is reduced by 1, and your combat factor is also reduced by 1. If you're paralyzed, you can't do anything. You've got the rally mechanic, so you can try and rally, and you also have the what I would call the adjacency rules, which make it possible, you could call it sphere of influence, zone of influence, which means that if you are next to, let's say, an HQ, you get certain modifiers which help you. If you are next to an enemy, you get certain modifiers which make it more difficult for you to perform a certain action. So that's a lot like you would find it in other war games. And you also have different types of units which have different abilities, different movement, different special options. So for example, the scout can do a scout or recon action, which allows you to kind of foresee how the enemy is going to act this round, which is very helpful. You also have different types of weapons that people can use. They have different types of die roll modifiers, or even how they work. You have resupply, because you can run out of ammo, so and it's very easily done. You just roll your dice, your combat factors, and then if you have 2 or more ones on your roll, you just run out of ammo, so you turn over the counter. So it also teaches you counter management. So the fact that, you know, it does matter which of your counters is which side up, and if you turn it over, then things will happen. It kind of deals with stacking limits, in that there is no stacking limit, or actually there's a very strict stacking limit. You cannot stack units at all. You can move through them. You can move through friendly units and unfriendly units, but you can't be in the same space as them at the end of your turn. And actually what these warriors, these aliens can do is they can drop on you, and if they do, then you're actually dead. They will just flatten you. So I think it deals with all of these basic but important wargaming ideas, and it teaches them really well. The way the AI is implemented is by chit draw. And of course, when you draw chits, chances are that what these chits will make these aliens do may not be the smartest move. So you could end up with, and that happened to me in another game that I played, that I drew bug out, which means that every single alien that's adjacent to a marine simply leaves the game and goes back in the cup. And I only had 4 aliens on the board at that moment in time, and they all were adjacent to a marine. That was just coincidence, and they all moved out and left the board. So I was actually really lucky, because the next time I drew chits, activation chits for them, since there were no aliens on board, nothing happened. So that was, of course, very lucky, and you could say that would never happen in real life, because why would they not attack you? So, of course, you could implement it differently and say whenever they are next to someone, they will attack them. Yes, you could do this, of course, and it would make perfect sense, but they have got this backstory of saying these guys have a very different intellect and a very different way of thinking to humans, which means that it's very difficult for us to really understand what they do and why they act the way they act. And that explains their somewhat erratic behavior, which you will simply encounter if you have a chit pull mechanism, because it can never be as intelligent as a human being because it can't analyze the board. This is not a chess computer that actually sees the board and can make a decision of what would be the most intelligent move to make. And it explains this in such a, in my opinion, almost charming way, and totally convincingly, that I don't think anyone can say, oh yeah, that doesn't make sense and it's, you know, stupid and whatnot. They really explain it, and I think it makes perfect sense from a backstory, and it makes the game really worth playing, not only because the AI is explained or its erratic behavior is explained, but because it's a consistent explanation. So you are actually, and this is why I play games, and I've said this many, many times, I play games because I want to tell a story. And when I did my Caesar Conquest of Gaul playthroughs, I could actually hear the shouts of the men as they were trying to capture Bibracte. I could hear the swords clashing. It is just a great narrative that is being told through paper and chits. And you have the same here. You tell a very compelling narrative. You really want to get your guys over here. If there were panzers, you would have heard me say, go panzer. There aren't any panzers, so I couldn't just give my normal battle cry. But, you know, I do get really involved, and I really enjoy this when I get involved this way. So if you are a wargamer and you're looking for something that is light, I will definitely say, check this out. $10. I paid €8.61. That was the conversion rate. And, you know, like the cost of printing, just go ahead and buy it, and just have some fun. If you have like little wargamers in your family and you're trying to, you know, get them into the hobby, or play something that is family friendly where, you know, nobody dies, because nobody dies. The aliens basically go back to their dimension, and we are just, the worst case scenario is you'll get paralyzed. So having said this, I have to check if somebody is paralyzed and then gets paralyzed again, they may be taken off the board. I'm not sure actually what happens. That only happened in one occasion here, and that may have actually been a mistake on my part. Yeah, multiple paralyzed results have no additional effect. So nobody dies. You know, this is completely safe for children. Nobody dies. The aliens, which are kind of cute looking, I think, go back to their dimension, and the guys will just wake up later. But you really want them to succeed. You really want to get off the map. That was the first scenario. The second one I haven't even looked at, which uses the other map. It's called Path to Victory, and it simulates the desperate defense of the outpost Skylar Research Station. And this seems to be a little more complex. And the last one is you can play this as a campaign as well. So you do it differently in terms of you start on the first map. You don't get told which in what order to bring in your resources or your units, and you just keep playing, and you try to get as many off the board, and depending on how many you get off the board, this will carry over and give you points or benefits for the second part. So like I said, it's probably an hour to play. This is my second playthrough, because in the first one I actually got so carried away that I forgot that I actually have to roll for reinforcements. I just brought them on the board. And so I decided that I wanted to do a replay of this to really show what it's like when you play by the rules. And I don't think I made many mistakes this time round. I can really recommend it, and I hope that someone in Europe picks this up, because you can't buy it in Europe. It's only available through the States from Tiny Battles. They have two more in the series. One is called Space Vermin Attack, I think, and the other one is called Attack of the 50-Foot Colossi. And that is a step up from this one. It's a lot more rules, it's a lot more complex, it's a lot more depth to it. And that one I ordered through their website, because I do want to get the real components, because it will also come with cards, and I don't want to do print and play for cards. So I ordered it this week, and I hope that it will be shipping soon. I can't wait to get my hands on it. If you want to get an impression of what that plays like, I again would like to refer you to Geek Gamers, who's got a, I want to say, 56-minute video of the, and the fact that I even know how long it is goes to show that I've been spending quite a lot of time on her channel, because I think she's doing a tremendous job. She doesn't do playthroughs because she says she doesn't want to, which is fair enough, but she gives you a lot of immersive storytelling and gives you overviews of how games play. And the 50-Foot Colossi, when I first saw the title of that video, I was like, you know, that's a game that I'm not interested in. But then when I heard that this is actually based off of this one, I watched it, and I was so amazed, because it is just such a great game. So hopefully it'll come in the mail soon. As soon as it does, I will do a playthrough as well. And I will, of course, play the second scenario, but I don't think I'm going to do a video, because obviously doing videos is quite time consuming as well. And yeah, it's sometimes I just want to play by myself. So I wish you all a pleasant day, and this is going to go up, and this is again recommendation, come one come all, Invaders from Dimension X, designed by Herman Luttman. Go get it, it's well worth it. Talk to you soon, bye bye.